I'm half engineer and half artist. There's some precariousness or, kind of that putting yourself at risk in most of my pieces. I'm not really sure what that's about, but I think it's important to the work. But one of the challenges isn't just to make stuff work, it's to make it work in a way that meets the mission that I have for the piece. So with this piece, I've really struggled a lot with a mechanism to make the wings flap that would be efficient but have the appropriate level of ridiculousness. And I think I'm close to achieving that.
Well, I really like the color and the way, the immediacy of the painting, because I think of those more like, not sketches, but kind of ways to experiment with drawing methods and patterns and color schemes, and then the etchings are seem more permanent and more kind of important. I like to use my journals and sketchbooks that way to kind of record ideas, or I'll make, like, in my planner thing, I'll make little sketches if I have an idea of like a spark of an idea or something. The times when I'm not making work is the times when most of that emotional stuff, like I notice that and I write that down, and that's like where the ideas come from, and then I take that into the art making.
I had been formulating these characters on various car trips, and they started to relate to one another, and that just happened organically as I was making up stories in my head. This is Mundy Tulsa. This is, she goes by Ms. Mundy. Edmund Tulsa is her given name. And Ms. Mundy is a very important character in the town of Normal. She's a baker. Mundy buns were a big hit. She had a buyout offer from Nabisco, but she turned it down on account of, personal integrity. Who can blame her, really? And she decided to stay put in Normal, and the Mundy plant remains the economic heart of the town. This is Mr. Denton Crum, Tishomingo Yale. I always got to check because there's Dallas Amarillo and there's Lawton Amarillo and they're cousins, and I forget who's which. Okay, this one's Lawton Amarillo. Got it.
That's Ashley. This is my timeline for my Art 365, documenting my life for 365 days. There's some pictures from when I went to get a mammogram. I think I have a bunch of me sweeping the studio. There's some interesting ones and there's some boring ones. This one is the first one. It's about food. I was one of the victims of the Peter Pan incident, and it kind of got me thinking where our food comes from, how it gets to us. I went to visit a pig farm. I now do not eat pork.
We're here. Basically, the idea of this visit is for inspiration. So, I'm gonna go to the toy section. We want people to come in here and almost like when you smell something that triggers a memory, we want to show visuals that are gonna trigger your memory. Everybody has a connection with G.I. Joe and Barbies. So that's always the reference that I give people. It's not just toys either, it's beyond that, but the idea is to basically make a connection with our audience through elements of their childhood.
It's funny, I don't think of myself as a landscape painter, but I guess I do now. I mean, now I'm like, oh yeah, I can manipulate that. Like I think of myself really as a figure painter. So this has been very educational. I used to hate foliage, and now I hate it more passionately. And damn it, I'm attracted to it because it's so pretty. So I don't know what that's about. With a project that's this ambitious, you can't really think of a grant as paying you. I mean, that's insane. But with a grant like this, what you can do is you can make something that seems, if you were thinking about it, that's impossible. You can make something that's impossibly, ludicrously ambitious into something that's possible.
Well, when I came to work for OVAC, Art 365 was already in progress. They had already been working on the concept and fundraising to get it started. So this has been in the works for a long time.
In discussing this concept with other people, they thought, oh my gosh, that's such a novel idea. And you know, as backward as we're perceived sometimes in Oklahoma, we do come up with some pretty good stuff sometimes.
I think the most crucial thing is the curator has to be the right person, because I think not only are we working with them and trying to get the timeline moving along, but these artists have these relationships with them, and so I think it has to be just the right person. I'm already worrying about who we're going to get for 2011.
Nice to meet you.
We
just met. Shake your hand again. Yeah.
How's it going?
Daun, good to meet you.
She's part of the collaborative.
The true story of 7 strangers picked to get some money.
This is, I think, a new concept for OVAC. A decision was made to create an experience for artists where they could have critical dialogue over a sustained period of time with a curator.
Artists are an important part of our state, that they're part of our community, that they need support, and that support's not just money or places to show, but that also includes professional support.
I've had the wonderful opportunity to kind of follow each artist. A lot of them, when the proposals were turned in, were very focused and had a very definite idea, and then, as they work on their idea, it evolves and shapes itself and, goes off in different directions. And I think that at the end of the year, we'll be able to sort of track that process.
This is my most recent painting. I like how she points out that I think about stuff, because I mean, it's true, like, and I'm around other artists a lot, but I don't like draw the same conclusions like people that aren't around me a lot do.
It's one of those things of what you want and what you get, which is, I think Diane wants the work to be both conceptual and a little more touchy-feely than the whole spectacle of it.
Oh my God, I could do that. Oh, that would be a nightmare.
It
yeah.
would. That's what your students are for.
I'm sure they're going to appreciate that. It was fun because she was just so positive, and she's a curator, so she understood. Like, I had 2 sentences, and she understood my idea. I didn't have to explain it. I don't think my idea is all that obtuse, but if you're not talking to an artist or a curator or somebody who's thinking about the visual expression of complicated ideas, they're not going to get it immediately.
I was thinking specifically about imagery and you mentioned the blocks, and then with these things, we have some close to completed paintings, I guess.
She doesn't really show it, but I feel like I'm disappointing her. I want to put on a good show for, not only for her, but for everybody, but it's such a privilege to be a part of this that I want to make sure that I'm not seen as someone who's taking advantage of it.
Sometimes I think she kind of pokes you, kind of says something that maybe necessarily she doesn't believe, just to see whether or not you'll defend it or if you'll back down because the curator said, I don't like it. I kind of felt that a few times, but she has to do what she has to do. Her name's on it just as much as all of ours.
We're not in this so that we can agree with each other all the time. That's not the most important thing. And we can, in this context, we can respectfully disagree and have the fact that we're on different pages spark a dialogue. And that's kind of what it's for. If we agreed about everything, then we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
This is an experiment, certainly. Who knows? We don't really know. That's the wonderful thing about it. We don't really know what we're going to get at the end.
Anytime someone's given a sum of money to say, you can go make art, I mean, that's a heck of a not only challenge, but responsibility. And at first it's just maybe you just see the monetary side as a windfall, but then there's a certain responsibility attached to that as well.
Basically, I just put this big ass hot dog over whatever this thing was underneath it. A wiener right on top of it.
I was going to do months, and then I thought, you know what, let's not make it so much about, ooh, June, so much on the nose. It's going to be a little more subtle, and I broke it up into seasons. So one of the first few frames is, it starts out in spring. So it kind of goes through spring and kind of hit the different, there's little bitty keystones where you can tell the time frame. There's a few dates in there to kind of give you a reference of where it is in case you missed the Four Seasons kind of deal.
I have roots here and I have family ties here, but I'm living here for the first time just now. And that was always part of the project, is that I cultivated that feeling of being an outsider on purpose. I saw the Western landscape, which I hadn't been in for a few years. So even though I'd grown up in the West, I was seeing it with fresh eyes because I had been out of it for a while. I wanted to find a way to sort of honor those little buildings that were completely practical on the surface. They serve a function and that's it. And I wanted to see if I could give them an aesthetic treatment. So that was a trigger that started some of the abstract paintings.
I put something on there that didn't really fit. So he was like, well, this canvas needs something else. Maybe I'll just put a big wiener over Darshan's thing.
I do that a lot. It's usually a wiener too.
I think the biggest challenge probably is that composition is like a really huge thing to me, and lately it seems like compositionally I'm kind of not getting burned out, but sort of losing some steam. Like in the beginning, like I had all these ideas of how the compositions that I wanted, and they came to me really easily, and now it's kind of like I feel like everything I think of I've done before or something like that. So it's challenging. Even if I feel that way, like I'll still just put something down on the plate or on the paper, and then if I don't like it, I'll go over it. Like in this one, I didn't like how this was working, for example, and so I added the other figure and something like that. And that's probably the biggest challenge.
I am clearly a better painter now than I was a year ago. Like that is obvious to me. I'm at an age where I've been painting a long time. And so it's kind of thrilling to think of yourself as improving within a year. Like, wow. Like I see my students improve, but I'm like, oh, they're students, they're starting from ground zero. And I'm like, wow, I should really be doing some more painting, because like, wow, imagine if I kept up this pace, I'd be really good in 5 years, It's kind of interesting.
One thing that my work has always had about it is I've talked about that obsessive quality where I work on pieces for a long time and pay attention to all these details. But then there's also, I always tend to try to make it grueling on myself, where like it's almost an impossible task to finish it. Because you need that deadline, and that doesn't mean that I might not change something in between exhibits, but literally, I'll keep tweaking things and changing things until I'm out of time.
I think for all of us, it's really highly anticipated, and I think that a lot of people in the community feel the same way. There's been so much work, over 2 years, really. I mean, there was a year leading up to it, and then the year of the work with the artists, that we're just really excited to see it come into being. It's a real thing now.
The artists that are working here are doing, particularly the group that we've got assembled here, doing really interesting work that would translate all over the place.